Greetings, everyone. Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. This is our final lore episode. Before we start the World of Warcraft content, we do have those 3 bonus levels to do, which I'm not worried about. They should be fun little diversions. So we're not technically out yet, but this will be the last one. On our last episode, we just read about this stuff that when we read the Dawn of the Aspects, maybe, that 5-part ebook series, it kind of alluded to it a little bit, but how Kalek and Krasis and Darkon Jathir, the evil one, how all these various forces were trying to get the energy from the Sunwell, and it's almost like they were able to get pieces of it, and then they made a weird, I don't know, not a clone, but just like a shell, a mortal vessel. And just how the stuff that ensues from that. So suffice it to say that the Sunwell energies are still out there. They're still very powerful, and that forces, both good, evil, and maybe somewhere in between, are pursuing them. Okay, so here we go on our last piece of Chronicles in Chapter 3. It's called Heralds of Shadow. Far from Quel'Thalas, Garona was on the hunt. I wondered where that girl was at. She had hounded Cho'gall and his Twilight's Hammer cultists across southern Kalimdor, slowly whittling away at their numbers. Her prey was cunning, but so was she. Garona gave no quarter to her foes. She vowed not to stop killing until she had sunk her daggers into Cho'Gall's heart. And remember, the old gods have just entered the picture too on Northrend in one of our last levels of Warcraft 3. Garona's persistence infuriated Cho'Gall. She struck from the shadows, disappearing as soon as she'd slain one of his cultists. Cho'Gall set traps and laid ambushes for Garona, but she always escaped them. As the days wore on, the old god's whispers thundered in his mind. They were angry. He was taking too long to deal with the meddlesome assassin. Deep within the dense rainforests of Heralds, Cho'Gall found a way to draw Garona out of hiding. At great risk to himself, he sent away his cultists and waited for the huntress. He knew she wanted him dead, and he knew she would never pass up the opportunity to face him, especially when he was without the protection of his followers. I wonder if this is setting up Dire Maul, which I think Cho'Gall takes a big part of, and also that's one of the first expansion or patches for Warcraft, World of Warcraft. Just as expected, Garona struck. The Ogre Mage and the Half-Orc Assassin grappled in the misty wilds. Garona gravely wounded Cho'Gall, but it was not enough to defeat him. Cho'Gall bested the assassin in combat and brought her under his dominion. Long ago, the Shadow Council had woven mental shackles around Garona's mind, making her into their unwilling servant. The human Archmage Khadgar had unraveled these bonds and given the half-orc freedom, yet Cho'Gall knew how to remake them. He forged new mental shackles and transformed Garona into his assassin. With Garona under his control, Cho'Gall returned to his original quest to awaken the old gods. He took what remained of his Twilight's Hammer cultists and ventured into the sun-scorched desert of Silithus. Cho'Gall sensed an old god somewhere beneath the golden sands. He felt the entity calling to him, its power stirring in his veins, and he heard its name whispered in his mind. Cthulhu. And I think that becomes one of the first main kind of goals and bosses of World of Warcraft. I'm not sure if it's building us up to that. I know there are some things Dire Maul does come in there. Moradon, I think, are some of the earliest patches. I think Ragnaros and Blackrock Spire. I'm not sure which of those two. So I can't remember the exact. And we'll play them in the patch order of the timeline to the best of our abilities. I think that should be okay and not too shabby. All right, so this one's done. Our chapter is complete, and like I said, as I said in the past couple episodes, I have a plan for rolling out content slightly differently going into World of Warcraft, where we will kind of go back and look at some sort of archived, non-canon or errata of the Warcraft universe. And of course, we'll have a little bit, not tons. We have one novel. Of course, we've got another chapter in Chronicles to start parsing our way through. And then we have little bits here and there of just a couple random comic chapters, manga, and chapters from things we've already started, but not too much, really. In the grand scheme of things, as much as we've had for a lot of the every other expansion, probably World of Warcraft, as huge as it is only going to have about as much lore as we had to do here for the Frozen Throne, minus all the side stuff that we're going to start. The game itself, as we know, is much more huge, especially with as thorough as we're going to do it. For now, though, catch up on some old stuff. Hopefully you enjoy these. I'm going to be taking my longest hiatus that I have taken so far on this show since I started making it a year ago, almost 11 months ago. I am going out of town for a few days. It's going to not be a crazy amount of time, but 3 or 4 days. It'll depend on how late I get in on that 4th day and how beat I am from my travels on whether or not I'm able to bust out any of these bonus campaign levels then. So I'll miss you guys. Try not to miss me too much. Enjoy catching up on the other stuff, and I can't wait to get back to you. This episode in the pipe, 5x5.